Yeah, good morning. 23, almost 24 minutes past, foggy, 59 degrees. It is Tuesday, February 2nd, Groundhog Day. Dustin Rivest with us from App Innovators, the website appinnovators.com. And good to see you. How are you?
Good to see you. I'm doing pretty well this morning.
We got a question that was emailed in about storage, and let's talk about the infamous cloud and about storage and how to best utilize space. First of all, storage is going to be a premium real soon.
Yeah, very soon. We read an article the other day, and I'll send it to you so you can post on your blog that storage is actually going to run out by 2020, which is kind of weird to think about. But at the same time, this article depicts that we don't have enough time to build enough storage devices to store the amount of information we're going to need by 2020.
Why?
Well, think about it. Your phone every year gets a better picture, a better camera. Therefore, the image quality size is bigger. You're shooting in 4K, like anybody needs a 4K photo on their or a 4K video on their phone. Lawyers and
don't we?
More and more compliancy issues. You know, people are having to store information for longer periods of time. If you're a lawyer, I think right now the time length is 7 years, so all documentation has to be held for 7 years. So imagine the amount of paperwork that has to be just digitally stored, or you can file it in a filing cabinet, but who does that anymore?
What's the trick to maintaining that wisely?
I would say just making sure it's secure. It's one of those things to where the cloud can sound scary, but everybody needs to keep in mind that the cloud is really and truly a server that's sitting somewhere else, and you need to make sure that you know where that server is and how secure and compliant that server actually is.
How does somebody determine whether or not the security matches what they expect out of it?
Well, a lot of businesses, you know, like lawyers and hospitals and accountants and stuff like that, they have certain compliancies. There are a bunch of weird names, so I can't name them all off, but there's certain laws that are set that you have to be compliant with your data. You got to protect your customers' data, your clients' data. So there's certain things like that you have to look after.
I'm looking at, I have what would be considered a slightly antiquated smartphone. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. This is big time for me, okay? And I'm like a lot of people my age. Changing smartphones is a really big deal. It's a giant headache and hassle. Now, I went to updating an app over the weekend, and I get the infamous warning, oh, you don't have enough space.
Yep.
How in the world do you clear up space when you have very few apps to begin with? What does that tell you is going on somebody's phone?
Well, you probably have a lot of pictures and a lot of videos on it, or your phone's pretty old. Doesn't have a lot of storage space on it. It didn't come with a lot.
You were talking about that. More and more people are going to, Chromebooks and notebook computers, and they inherently have virtually no storage.
Absolutely. I mean, you have the Google Chromebooks, they don't have any storage, and then a lot of the newer MacBooks, they're coming with less and less storage. Everybody's backing their stuff up to the cloud, and whether it's through Dropbox or, like I said, we have a company here in town called Coaxis that has a, off-site backup storing and stuff like that.
Are there options? In other words, if you don't, for example, people my age, and I would imagine there are people your age as well, Dustin, that don't like the idea of sending their information, their photos, their files off to, quote, the cloud. They want it more secure than that, but they don't have the adequate storage in their notebooks or their laptops or whatever, they're using. So what other options are there?
Well, the only other option is to actually take it off your phone and put it on your computer, but that's such a hassle, and then these days, phone manufacturers have made it so easy to actually back it up onto the cloud. Apple has the iCloud, and so you pay a monthly subscription for storage. So every time you take a photo, it automatically backs it up. Dropbox does the same thing. There's a couple other backup sources that allows you to, once you take a picture, it automatically goes to your cloud drive. So it saves room on your phone. Okay,
but you said 2020, the jig's up. We're allegedly going to be out of space. So what's going to happen to all those subscribers in 2020, which is not far away?
That's a good question. It's yet to be said what's actually going to happen. What are going to be the direct consequences of that? But think about it. Why does anybody need a 4K video on their phone? Why does anybody need a 20 megapixel picture on their phone? If you were blowing up a 20 megapixel picture and you were pasting it on your wall, that would make sense. But 9 out of 10 people aren't going to look at that photo, but on their actual phones. So you don't need that high of image quality. So what I would recommend a lot of people do is look at your settings right now. Make sure you don't have it on the highest setting unless you're trying to be an amateur photographer and using it for stuff like that. You just don't need something that high quality.
We have about a minute and a half left here. Let's talk to the businesses out there. the big takeaway here is storage is something you better start thinking about now versus later.
Definitely. In looking at what your current processes are, I would say looking at it now mainly from a security threat, understanding where your data is. Most businesses have their data stored and backed up in some place. I bet if you went and asked 9 out of 10 of them, they'd be like, "Oh, it's in the server right over here."
Do they have it in a server or a portable hard drive? I mean, those were popular a few years ago. Everyone had a portable hard drive.
A little bit of both. We had a client the other day that said, "Oh yeah, I have a server over here," and I asked them, "Where do you do the backups?" And they said, "Oh, every day I have somebody, they go and they take the disk out and put a new disk in, and then they go, put the backup away." And I said, "Well, what happens if your building burns down?" "Oh, well, it's in the safe. My backup's in the safe." I said, "Well, your server just burned down. What are you going to plug your backup into? Then you got to buy a couple $1,000 server, have it provisioned, pay a big tech guy to come in and provision it and do all this stuff. Versus if it was on the cloud, it'd be accessible very easily, very quickly."
So the lesson here is have a plan.
Have a plan, biggest thing. We talk about having plans for fire, flood, things like that. Life emergencies. Nobody's really thinking about their data, and nobody's thinking about their business, from a tech standpoint. And it's coming time where they need to stop and say, okay, let me make sure I'm protected if X, Y, Z happens.
All right, folks. Dustin Rivest from App Innovators. Again, the website, appinnovators.com. You can reach out, set a time if you want to talk about your website, your business, how what they do can help and leverage the power of the internet and technology to its max to help your business. Good to see you. Thanks.